So you want to tap into your superpowers. How do we do that? What are your superpowers? Well, you're going to enjoy this video. Hi, I'm Daniel Laxtons, and today we're talking about superpowers. Your superpowers. What are they? How do we get them? You know, if you're watching this video, it's because you have always felt that there's abilities within you, and you've always wondered, how can I make them manifest? Maybe you've even seen some of your superpowers throughout your life, but it's only once in a while here, once in a while there. So if you're watching this video, you probably want to increase your superpowers, and you're wondering, how do I do that? Well, the answer lies within you. And here's another question though. Does it mean that you have to have specific DNA or come from a specific family line where people had certain abilities? Maybe some people foretell the future, or maybe someone can read minds, or they can see things from distant places, or touch an object and get the sense of who owned that object. These are some superpowers we look and say, is that real? Could that really be? Well, we have documented history that this stuff has been going on for a long time. As a matter of fact, if you look at our military and the CIA, they had been using remote viewing since the early 70s, and they've had positive results. I mean, it really, really works. So does that mean that you have to be from a certain specific family line or have that DNA? No. No, what they found is that any of us, we all have it. We inherently are connected to the universal consciousness. But now the question is how do we tap into that universal consciousness so we can tap into our superpowers? Well, the secret is something you've had all your life, and that is your imagination. Imagination is everything. See, imagination, if you just look at the word, did you know that the word magic, this word, imagination, comes from the word magic? And the reason why is because magic means magic is power, imagination. Power, nation. Nation refers to, yes, like a nation of people, but it's really the term genealogy, or a genie, the magic genie. So the truth is imagination means I have power to create. Because genealogy is, you know, your sex, it's procreation. Genealogy, genes, you're procreating. So it means I have the power to create. And where do you create things? Right here in your mind. So the question is why can't we get our superpowers? You know, because we all have imagination, but what's happened to this? What's happened to your imagination now that you've grown up? See, when you were a child, oh my goodness, remember, your imagination was so powerful. You could play with a toy, but you could look around the room and everything seemed colorful. You could see everything in such a detail. And when you're a child, you have a strong imagination. And if you think about it, the scripture that Jesus said, you know, the scripture where he says, until you become like children, you may not enter the kingdom of heaven. So it's actually, there's a golden thread through all different scriptures, all different books and all different teachings. But it all goes back to imagination and returning to your childhood imagination. That's where it was most powerful. And so if you're going to tap into your superpowers, you need to tap into your universal consciousness, right? This is our connection, is the imagination. You're going to have to start practicing your imagination more. Now, this will take a little bit of time, but I'm telling you, we can all do this. We can get back to that childhood imagination, how powerful our minds were when we were little kids. Do you realize that most of us kids, when we played with specific toys, later on in life, some of those stories, those imaginatory stories that we're having, they actually came to fruition. Sometimes people were playing with a doll, and next thing you know, you have kids. Okay, that's a simple one, but some of us were playing with power equipment or something, and then later on in life, we had a job doing that, or maybe, you know, If you're playing like doctors, and then next thing you know, you become a doctor. So these are the things you have to consider, is that when you're a child, your imagination is super powerful. Maybe even one of the cars that you played with, you actually owned when you were an adult. And so imagination is an amazing thing. But now, how can we get our imagination back to when we were a child? That's the secret. No, no, I'm going to explain that right now. Well, so look at this illustration here. This is a kitchen. Let's just imagine it's your kitchen. But on the island here, or the table, if you go into your kitchen, you probably have a fruit basket or maybe potatoes or whatever sitting on the counter. But if you have that little bowl, and we're going to use an example of an orange. So if you're standing here looking at the counter with the orange, or oranges, but just focus on one of the oranges, we're going to look at that orange, and you're going to look at it from all around the orange. So you're from a distance, but in your mind's eye, you can see the orange, but just start visualizing what the orange looks like on this edge. Can you visualize if you were standing actually over here, what the orange would look like? Now don't move from here, stay in that one spot, but visualize that you're standing over by the refrigerator looking at the orange. And so if you're in your mind's eye, you can see the orange from the other side. And imagine what the orange smells like. Imagine how it smells. And then you could stand over here by the sink, the kitchen sink. But now you're standing here, but allow your attention to be over here by the kitchen sink, looking at the orange from that perspective. What does it look like? What does the bowl look like? And so as you're practicing this, you're using your imagination. You can do this with your eyes open, because you always have been able to do this, just that we're returning to the powerful imagination that we had when we were a child. Now here's the second thing to do. After you've practiced looking at the orange from different directions, although you're stationary in the same spot, but your attention goes into different spots in the room, now, and looking at the orange, now go inside the orange, or better yet, become the orange. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, just visualize yourself as the orange, and like, the orange can see, the orange has personality, right? That's you. So you're inside, you are the orange now. Now look up at the ceiling. What does the ceiling look like to you as the orange? Now remember, you're standing here, but you're visualizing yourself as the orange looking around your kitchen. And then as the orange, look over, you can see the edge of the bowl. Do you see the edge of the bowl? And you look over and you see the sink, you see your faucets over there. And then you turn and you look over. As the orange, you look over, you see your refrigerator. You look at the refrigerator, look at the handles as the orange. And then as you turn, you can look over. Oh, there you are. Now, as the orange, you can see yourself looking at you, the orange. So that means that you're the orange, but you're seeing yourself looking at you. Now, these are the way that you can strengthen your imagination. This is one of the ways. Let's choose another example. Here's a tree. Look outside your window, wherever you are, and look at one of the trees out there. Now again, maybe you can stand on the side, or bring your attention to the side of the tree and look at the bark of the tree. Maybe if you're around the tree, you can look up into the tree, the top of the tree. But get to know the tree from where you're standing. You're standing maybe at the window, but you're looking at that tree. But bring your consciousness, bring your attention into the area around the tree, and just look at the tree. It doesn't mean that you're going to see the exact specific bark or anything. You're just using your imagination, because as we exercise that, down the road you will actually be able to see the bark. You also want to become the tree. So not only are you looking at the tree from different angles, but you also want to become the tree, just like you did with the orange. And the tree, as you are the tree, look up at the sky, look around your yard. You might notice the lawn chairs. You might see the window where you're standing and look at yourself inside the window. Down the road, you will be able to see the other side of the orange without looking at it, because it's an inherent ability. We all have this ability. We just haven't exercised it. And the reason why we haven't exercised this ability is because when we're a child growing up, we start to become programmed. We get programmed by our families, our parents. We get programmed by our school, and we get programmed by the religion that we're in. And so as we grow up, we start to feel like you feel resistance, because it's not you that you're being. It's actually you're being what's around you, the rest of the world, right? We're not being ourselves, or being the teacher at school, or being the religious person, or we're being our parents. It's not actually living out who you are. So as you grow up, you're programmed with all this information that is contrary to this imagination that you had. And so then this imagination, when we get older, what are we using this imagination for? Well, guess what we use it for? We think about the past and we think about the future, right? But as we think about the past with our imagination, what are we thinking about? Negative thoughts. We're thinking about, oh, if I only would have done this right, I messed this up, I didn't do this correctly. And as we're doing that, we're actually bringing our attention, just like when you're looking at the orange by the sink, when you take your attention from your mind to a specific spot, your mind really literally goes there. So when you're in the past, visualizing what was going on in the past, in the negative way, what's happening? Well, you're bringing up those negative emotions too. You feel sad or upset or what have you. And some of us spend hours a day in this imagination, not the child one, the adult one, and we're visualizing these things that we already experienced over and over and over, and we're then feeling that negative emotion, and we're actually bringing more experiences similar to that you're thinking about. Now, there's also the opposite of that. A lot of us are in the future in our imagination. We're thinking about the things we want, but when we think about that, what are we feeling? A lot of times when we think about maybe, oh, I gotta get the bills paid, but do you feel the sensation of thinking, oh, the bills need paid, I'm visualizing the bills getting paid, but what is that sensation inside? Doesn't feel good, does it? No, it's a negative emotion. It's anxiety. Remember, if you're living in the future, people that are suffering anxiety, they're living in the future. If people are suffering depression, they're always living in the past. But they literally are going there through their imagination, the connection to the universal consciousness. Now let me tell you something. There is no past. There is no future. The only thing that truly exists is the now. Let me repeat that. There is no past and there is no future. They don't exist. The only thing that truly exists is the present. So where you bring your attention to, you can spend hours a day living in the past or living in the future in the wrong way, or you can just live in the now. Now that doesn't mean that we don't daydream in a good way, in a proper way, but when we daydream, we have to use specific techniques. Now let's talk about the future technique again. When people are living in the future, maybe they have anxiety, it's because while they're visualizing these things, they have anxiety because it's not here in the now. But of course the future doesn't exist, so it doesn't matter because only the now exists. The now is the only thing that will ever exist. But what you do though, here's how you get over this. Because what happens is when you have that anxiety, you're actually pushing it away. That's resistance. You're pushing what you want away. I want the bills paid, but I feel this anxiety, so they don't get paid. That's what happens. I want the Lamborghini. Oh, and then you feel, when you're thinking about this, that you check on your feelings. Whatever you're visualizing, the past or the future, check on your feelings. Those are your barometer. It's your instruments that you can tell whether something's going to come or not. So if you feel anxiety, then you're pushing it away. And if you're feeling other negative energies, you could be pulling that towards you. Like in the past, you're thinking, I don't want this, I don't want that. Well, you're going to get it, right? We've all experienced that. So here's a secret technique on visualizing the future to where your imagination gets stronger and you actually draw that into reality. So let's just say the Lamborghini. You want a Lamborghini. You visualize the Lamborghini, and of course the subconscious mind or the ego will be saying, oh, we can't afford that. Remember, don't think about the how, but visualize the Lamborghini. But here's the thing though, don't just go into the future where you have the Lamborghini. Go into the far future, maybe a year ahead of that. Now bring your attention a year ahead of the time, and now look back at the imaginary story about being in that Lamborghini. Now, if you're living a year into the future and then thinking about how you enjoyed the Lamborghini and how it was a great time, that you enjoyed it for a year and then you sold it because you bought another car. But when you think about, man, that was so awesome, the Lamborghini, do you feel any anxiety or stress? Because you're in the future. You're looking at a past experience that's still in your future, but you're in the future looking at a past experience in the future, but it's in your past. But do you get what I'm saying? So that's the way you can get past the anxiety sensation and actually truly enjoy your visualizations, because there is no future and there is no past. There's only the now. So it's your vibration that actually pushes something away or brings something to you. So start practicing this imagination. Do it by looking at items and practice seeing them from different angles, because when you put your attention over here, then you actually do go there. And I'll talk about time travel in the future, but just practice this technique. Imagination. You have to have the imagination you did when you were a kid. You practice this by using some of these techniques here. And remember, you can always go into the future and then into the future and then look back and then make everything the past, because when you look back at the past, you can, positive things, you look back into the past, you can feel really good about that you accomplished this. Now, I hope this video has been, oh, and by the way, the more you practice all of this, then you're going to see your superpowers showing up. You're going to have whatever abilities you want. You can start visualizing those things and they will show up in your timeline. And I hope this has been beneficial to you. If it has, please share it with a friend that you feel might benefit from it. And please also hit subscribe, hit the bell, click like, and I'll have a lot more of these coming, these types of videos coming to you, so that way that you can think positively and start making the changes that you always wish you could make. I'll see you in my next video.